Here is my spoiler-free, no spoilers. There will be 0 spoilers in this review of Rise of Skywalker. And if you want to hear my reviews of Last Jedi and compare them, or if you want to know what I thought about Last Jedi first, the links are down below. I will not spoil anything here, but I will go into what I feel about this movie. I like the movie. Can't believe I'm saying it. I kind of like the movie. I did not like Last Jedi. However, the more I watched Last Jedi, the more I began to like the parts that were good to me. The bold, crazy parts, even the parts where I thought, man, you know, Luke wouldn't do this. Luke wouldn't go in hiding and all these things. I still liked that. It's weird because I liked the story and I liked it, and they sort of explained it enough for me. It didn't bother me as much as other people. What really bothered me was the whole SJW agenda in the movie. It was so annoying that in my face that I couldn't escape it. And there'll always be problems with that movie, in my opinion, as an older fan. Younger fans, probably not as much because you don't even notice these things, so it wouldn't bother you. But anyway, let's get into Rise of Skywalker, which I had a major goal going into this movie, or that I hoped for this movie, in that it would make Force Awakens and Last Jedi somehow better. And I believe that it did. I can't believe it. I really went in thinking, well, this isn't going to... You know, I heard a lot of early reviews. And speaking of early reviews, if you want to quickly take a look at The Last Jedi's Rotten Tomatoes score, if you remember, Hollywood gave it a 91%. The fans gave it a 43%. But if you look at tonight's score of Rise of Skywalker, it's the opposite. The fans are giving it an 87%. And Hollywood is giving it a 57%. What is going on with this flip-flop? So now Hollywood are the ones that are burying it. Hollywood are now the toxic fans, right? They called us toxic because we didn't like something. Now they're doing it. Now they're the toxic ones. Probably because their agenda wasn't in this movie in your face and annoying. I can tell you right now that there is nowhere near the type of annoying agenda that irritates you and gets in the way of a story like in this movie. However, there is one LGBTQ moment in the movie, and guess what? It didn't bother me at all. I went into this thinking, hearing about something about that, and being like, oh boy, here we go. And I went into this movie hearing that they took out scenes to make room for SJW scenes and all these things. I can tell you that is not true. That is not true. As someone who gave Last Jedi a 1 star the night I saw it and said way too much BS agenda, this movie did not have it. However, this movie did have one moment, and the weird thing about it is that one moment that happens, and if you blink, you'd miss it. But that one moment that happens, kind of smiled at it. J.J. Abrams knows how to make you see something and actually think, I like that. As opposed to the last movie that made it crammed down your throat to where you felt sickened by it. And yet this movie took a larger step towards a SJW LGBTQ moment than the last one. But the last one was more full of contrived things that felt annoying and forced. This didn't feel forced. Well done, J.J. Abrams. So there are problems with the movie a little bit, and as a movie, there is problems. I can see if you are a Stark film reviewer, you're going to have problems with this as a film, as a movie. Forget the decisions made and the things that are done. Last Jedi, as a movie, a cinematic movie, is better. If that makes any sense. So like as a serious movie, as a film, technically, I feel like Last Jedi was maybe better. You know? This one takes risks in a different way and is a bit sloppy at times because of it. But again, the movie moves so quickly that it doesn't really bother me that much. So I'm trying to figure out what I can say without telling you anything, so I can't tell you anything. But the fact of the matter is, there isn't as much explained as I thought going into this, and maybe I'll pick up on some exposition later. But many things were explained that helped me. And yeah, there was some good moments, man. There really was. I actually thought there was going to be more moments because of all the reviews and people saying, "Oh, the feels of this and that," and so many moments and so much fan service and so much blah 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 blah. I didn't get that vibe that there was just so much fan service and there was so much I didn't get that. A lot of reviewers were saying that "Oh, there's just so much fan service and so much weird." I didn't really get that. I got exactly what I expected. I got some, but it kind of made sense within the story. Many of the issues that you have with Force Awakens, I feel like you'll have a little bit with this one, where it's okay, there's some plot twists and some twists and turns and some unexpected little things that happen here or there, and some shocking little things. But it kind of starts following there's some parts that follow similar tones, and I can't say too much more beyond that. But there's a familiarity to half of the movie has a familiarity to it, but the other half of the movie is completely new stuff that maybe you didn't expect. So that's the good thing. But there is that one little downside that there's there's some familiarity to it, and then then there's the music is great. The visuals are really pretty good. There's funny moments, man. There's a funny. This is so much better than Last Jedi with comedy. Last Jedi, most of the comedy in Last Jedi did not work for me. One of the best, I think, the funniest moment in Last Jedi, comparing it to that, was when Luke or whatever it was, I think it was Rey, destroyed something on the island with Luke. And the debris came flying down to the weird guardians of the island, nun fish people. Remember Rey busted a hole in the wall and they were mad putting it back together. And then later on she blew something completely up and then it wiped out their wheelbarrows. And they just had that moment where they were like or whatever that was. That was hilarious. That was probably to me the funniest thing in that movie. But this movie had I laughed out loud a couple times in this movie. And it was all mostly C-3PO. I'm telling you, to me, maybe I'm a sick weirdo, but the C-3PO stuff was hilarious to me. The movie was pretty serious mostly. It didn't have the same tones from as the last one. There's a couple of things that, I wished happened that did, that I was there was one thing that didn't happen that I wanted to happen, but it wasn't a big deal. It was something that only I thought of. Nobody else is even worried about it, but I just wanted it to happen. I'll talk about that in my spoiler review. But yeah, C-3PO to me was hilarious in this. That was really funny to me. I really liked that. I made a list before I went to the movie about my favorite Star Wars. Only the Skywalker series, right? The original Star Wars movies and the prequels, and then these three. I didn't get into Rogue One and all those other ones. But what did I give it here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, yeah. So my guess is right. You're looking at my notes from earlier. I guessed at this. I said, if if Rise of Skywalker can be better than Phantom Menace, Last Jedi, and Attack of the Clones, and this is my list of how I like the Star Wars movies too, just in case you're out there and you're like, I wonder how my opinion compares to his. If you want to compare your opinion to mine, I think I just personally like A New Hope the best because it's just the most fondest movie to me because I saw it first and my dad and me watched it so many times. I mean, in a way, I actually liked Return of the Jedi maybe the second most because as a kid, I just loved the idea of Luke finally becoming the Jedi and the whole going into the Emperor thing at the end and whatever else. But in the end, Empire Strikes Back is just so awesome. So I go A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, literally in the order they were made. And then for me, after that, it's Revenge of the Sith. I think that's the best movie of the prequels, and it's so dark compared to the other two prequels, and, it's the story of Vader. So I just think that's the next one. I think that's the next one in line as far as a favorite. And then I actually liked Force Awakens, kind of, 7 out of 10, I think I gave it or something. I thought it was typical J.J. Abrams with the Star Trek movies. I always give those a 7 out of 10. I don't think they're really Star Trek, but he does a good job telling an action version of Star Trek, I suppose, and so whatever. Anyway, so Force Awakens, I kind of liked it. I thought a good start. I gave it a 7 out of 10. And then I guessed that Rise of Skywalker would beat out Phantom Menace, Last Jedi, and Attack of the Clones, and I looks like I was right. To me, that's where it sits. For me, it sits exactly there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My 6th favorite Star Wars movie in the 9 original Skywalker saga type movies, whatever you want to call it. So that to me is a win because it also made Last Jedi better. Like, I don't think I would change this order with Last Jedi still, but the one thing I can say is it made Last Jedi better. I had Force Awakens at a 7 out of 10 and Last Jedi at a 4 out of 10. I would now move Last Jedi up to a 6 out of 10. But like a positive one, like one that I think, you know what, it's watchable now. I like the idea to watch it now. I think it's watchable now. So this movie has now made Last Jedi watchable for me. That is immensely important because I gave Force Awakens a 7 out of 10. And I think I would give The Rise of Skywalker probably about the same. But it's a different reason, though, because they're different. They're so different, man. I think that all three movies, I feel like all three movies have different paces. I feel like they really do. All three movies have a different pace. And I feel like the original three all kind of have that same feel, vibe, and pace in a way, but these movies don't. They have all a different sort of pacing. And that's the one little negative there. Like if I gave New Hope a, my favorite, 8.5 out of 10, and Empire Strikes Back a 9 out of 10, but my favorite is still A New Hope. You know what I mean? Like I acknowledge that maybe Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie ever, but I personally like A New Hope, so I have no problem acknowledging that I think Empire Strikes Back is probably the best movie, but I like A New Hope, so I ranked it this way. Do you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I would probably give this movie a 7 out of 10. I'm giving it a little bit of a higher score than it maybe deserves because movie-wise, cinematically, it felt more like a cartoon at times, if that makes any sense. I keep going back to that. It felt like I recently rewatched some of the Ghostbusters cartoons, and when you're watching them, you're like, oh, this is a little ridiculous because it's a cartoon, but you know what? It holds up pretty well. And I was like, I'm gonna watch all the Ghostbusters cartoons, and I don't really like watching cartoons anymore. Loved them as a kid, don't really like them as much anymore. But you know what? I could watch these Ghostbusters cartoons. It's pretty good. They kind of hold up a little bit. They're a little bit ridiculous, though. That's how I felt about Rise of Skywalker. Leia, Carrie Fisher's scenes. Unfortunately, if only you didn't know she died in real life. You know what I mean? If she hadn't died, her scenes in the movie would have seemed a little bit less bizarre. They were pretty good, though. They did a damn good job. I almost felt we should have seen less of her. I felt like we saw a little too much of her in the movie that exposed it a little bit. I feel like they could have dialed it back a little bit, or maybe come up with like a quicker solution to showing her. But they really were like, no, we're going with, she's in the movie for a lot. You know what I mean? So I'm surprised by that. Yes, I think that's all I can really say at this point. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you'll like and what people are going to like and not like. I may watch this movie a couple more times and begin to kind of get bored by it and not think it's as good, maybe. I think that's a possibility because the movie itself isn't a very great movie. Like, I mean, and I'm talking about as substance-wise. I mean, I don't know how well the movie's going to hold up. We may come to find out that Last Jedi holds up better. I don't know. But it definitely has a different tone and a different pace than Last Jedi. So, I'm not sure. But right now, I'm pretty happy with what happened. And I think they did wrap up this story well. And again, I enjoyed some of the surprises. I was a little mad at some little things, and I was a little bit like, whoa. And there was some things that I thought were executed so much better than I read spoilers before I saw this movie by accident a while ago. And I didn't know what was real, but I was like, I think this is real. I think I really read the spoilers, and I did. And some of the things that were written as I read them and went, that's ridiculous. This is stupid. In the movie, it worked. Like, I was like, wait a minute. This kind of like worked in the movie. For me, it worked. It may not work for you. And certainly, if you're a film critic, it doesn't really work. And some things don't really work. But for me, it did. And then there was a couple things that I read that I thought would work better, and they didn't. So it kind of like balanced itself out, which is kind of funny. I definitely think you should see this in the movies. I don't think that this is nearly as bad as what I've seen many reviewers say about it. I think that it's certainly more safe than we thought it would be in some ways, but it's also kind of crazier in other ways than we expected it would be. Anyway, I'm about to go record my spoiler version, my spoiler review. So that's coming up at some point. Look for that. And I thank you for listening to this. I'm sorry for being so vague, but I just don't want to give anything else up. I thought we met a few new characters that were fine in the movie, that were good. I really enjoyed it. There was a little flair in there that gave you that George Lucas kind of vibe a little bit, even though George Lucas was banned from seeing the movie. I don't know why that was. Maybe he threatened to blow up. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why George Lucas wasn't allowed there. My wife did not see this with me. She read the spoilers and said she thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And she did not like The Last Jedi, really. But she did not like the sound of this movie, so she didn't come to see it with me. I went to the movies alone, which was weird. I don't think it was as bad as I don't think it's as bad. She still has problems with some things. And while I agree that there were other stories that were already written that could have been told, or even some of them could have been borrowed a little bit that would have made things a lot better in these movies, I think that these movies could have been an 8 or a 9 out of 10, and they chose to go the way they went, and so we're stuck with what we got. But what we got went from seeming like it was going to be the death of Star Wars to, I guess, hope. And that's kind of a theme in the movie. But it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, as Luke said in the last one. All right, go see the movie. I definitely think you should see the movie. I think 70% of you are going to like it, or like it enough that, you'll like it. You'll like it. I bet you will like it more than at least a few of the other movies that you've already seen from Star Wars. And so for that reason, I think it's definitely worth a watch. This is Corrupted Nation or Joe Cronin, whatever. Hit me up on Twitter at CorruptedPod if you want to talk. And subscribe to the channel if you're new. And look for my spoiler-filled review. We can really talk about this coming soon. And keep an eye on those Rotten Tomatoes reviews as Evil Hollywood gives it a bad grade, but the people give it a good grade. But last time the people gave it a piss-poor grade, and then Hollywood gave it a mega good grade, and then said that people hate agendas or something. I don't know what they want. And again, like I said, there's a moment in this movie, but, and, fuck, I liked it. Drew did not like it. Look at how mad Drew is. Here's some other videos you might have missed. I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later. Bye-bye. And thanks to all the patrons who make these videos possible. You guys keep me on the air. Patreon.com/Joe Cronin Show.